First of all, I'm setting this, sitting in a space really without that high-speed internet, but also shows the dynamics, I think, of being innovative and being solution-driven. But I'm Eugene. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a hotelier. I'm in the hotel business predominantly, and I'm happy to share with you my views kind of on the world we live in today. And I hope to inspire you a little bit with this presentation that I named What If? And the world we live in today. So use your imagination kind of. So what if as a leadership tool to encourage problem solving, creativity, and also taking the bigger view really. So welcome here. My email address is here in case IM@eugenestaal.com, in case you want to stay. And I just need to flip a page. How do I do that? I do not seem to be able to ship. Oh, there we go. So here we are. We can't come together, but our ideas can. So I think a great initiative and a great way of getting together and a bit sharing our viewpoints and ideas, really. So if I look at the total cast of characters, just to give you a short introduction on today's session, setting the stage a bit. This is me. I graduated from hotel school. I'm Eugene. I'm a citizen of the world. I worked 18 years for Hyatt International hotels, pretty much all over the world. 9 years in an executive leadership role at the Radisson Hotel Group. And then I decided it was enough of corporate for me, which I commonly refer to a little bit as this world of beige. And I started my own business, which is Young World. A community apart hotel concept. But the past 2.5 years I spent pretty much as president and managing director of Penta Hotels Worldwide, which is a brand of the Rosewood Hotel Group, with the mission really, my key mission was to reimagine and to grow the brand really. So there are two parts in this presentation. What world do we live in today? And what about me? What about you? What role do you play in that? And how can you take almost the opportunity of especially the period we're in right now, and how I apply this to Penta Hotels Worldwide as president to reimagine and grow and make the company profitable. So this first part is a little bit to set the stage of what world are we living in today, you know, and I think Coast mentioned just now a great piece on meat, you know, for example, and how do we educate people to eat maybe less or more healthy, more qualitative than quantitative. But we live in a world right now that looks maybe a little bit as a turbulent, maybe unpredictable whirlwind a bit, yeah. So a bit like a vortex, if you wish. Yeah. Although this image indicates a vortex, it's black and white. I prefer to think much more in terms of color and ice cream. And I like to use a bit of an ice cream vortex here. And even for the hell of it, just add another scoop on top. So eat your heart out, you know, really at this moment. But what we need to do is to consolidate our efforts really to the real urgent needs and world agenda alignment. I think that's one of the key points really. And for us to adapt that to our brand cultures, the purpose and values, and what kind of leadership is required to create that culture, you know, what I typically refer to as a culture of imagination, where ideas, ideation, and people are the core differentiator really, where everybody in the organization thinks along. So right now, I very much consider this a bit as we are right in a paradigm shift at this very moment, right? And a paradigm shift is kind of a fundamental change in approach, or a fundamental change. So how do you maneuver in this period? How do you make the best of it? We're all at home, we're limited in mobility, but yet how can I make the best out of it? So I shall talk briefly about identifying and catching a bit that opportunity, yeah, which I call a bit, or refer to the Kairos moment. And And Kairos was very much an ancient Greek god of opportunity, and also the youngest son of Zeus, with Kairos meaning the right or critical opportune moment. And the opposite of Kairos is really Chronos, it's kind of his brother, which is more chronological time. So it's the ticking time, while Kairos is more the opportunistic time to catch and find the right opportunity, really. So, and as you can see in this picture, Kairos is shown with a long lock of hair hanging down from his forehead, which suggested that opportunity could only be grasped as he approached. And then you have his brother Kronos. So I briefly wanted to mention that because in that vortex scenario, in that ice cream vortex we are in right now, I very much see Kronos as the vortex and Kairos more as the particles within. And then I shall briefly touch also on the Ikigai concept, and you may have heard of this. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that means very much a reason of being, and the word refers to having kind of a direction of purpose in life. Yeah. So use the force we are in right now, this vortex, this paradigm shift, to accelerate change in a positive way. Yeah? Engage with it. Use this moment to lift you, especially yourself, and really maybe ask yourself some critical questions that who are you and what do you really want out of this life? And how can you contribute to a better world if that shows up into your goals or ambitions? So enjoy the ride, really. Adapt and innovate yourself, your company or your brand, your family or your relationship. It's the right time right now, really. So just imagine, you know, so it's very important to where I say, okay, hey, you dreamer, you know, imagine. The world needs more dreamers and we need to dream big. You know, the idea can never be too big enough, and there's no such thing as a bad idea, I always say. But yeah, and anything is possible. So really, anything is possible. Anything you can imagine is real. And I use this image here, a little bit of Arthur Ashe, because yes, that's all good and well, but sometimes we just don't know. Are we going up? Are we going down? Are we going left? Are we going right? Are we coming or are we going? Right? So how do you figure all that complexity out? But I think it's also very important to take a different point of view, you know, to things. I think that's very fundamental, you know, to stay curious, you know, a different point of view. So how do you look at things? Do you look for solutions? Do you try and take a different approach? Maybe I take a different look at it, try and turn it upside down, have a different discussion. So what if? What if we were to look at things a little bit differently, from a different perspective? Maybe ask someone different for an opinion. So, but what if in this period is not as important as it's never been, really? Right? And so maybe by doing that, it's maybe not so bad after all. So here's a kind of a bit of a visualization where I say, is the vortex in action? So this is the vortex in you, yeah? So do you flow with this? Do you flow with the current stream? Do you swim upstream? Do you disrupt the stream? Do you innovate? Do you redirect it? Do you lead? Do you follow? Do you engage? Or do you collaborate with it? And I think the most important part is to not be intimidated by it, to not be intimidated by the period we are right now. So identify and focus on your strength. What are your strengths? And my approach when I present this to either hotel schools or the teams or different hotels is focus on your strength and make them stronger. All right. So we may not be right now in serious movement, but the time is moving on. And how can we use this? Yeah. It's time to expand, to learn, to move, to think about expansion job. So, and why are we doing all that? Obviously very obvious, and I think it's all what we have in common. We do it for our future generations, obviously to look after the planet, the animals we have, and we as a community, we as a unity, we as a world. I think the current situation has shown that the infection we're currently experiencing Corona doesn't need a visa, doesn't need a passport, doesn't make a distinction between people. Anybody that's a human being that breathes is a potential victim, right? So we need to be united in that as a world community. The second part of it is really when I joined Penta Hotels about 2.5 years ago, I was asked by Sonia Chang at the time, the owner of the group, listen, we have some challenges. We need the brand to be reimagined, to be made profitable and ready for growth. So how do we go about it? So I want to kind of put yourself a little bit into, I would say, the mindset and the approach, but specifically also the leadership style that was needed for it. And everybody is a leader. It's not only that the president of the company is a leader, and I'll go into that a little bit, but it's time to show when do I lead and when do I follow, right? Whether it's a matter of expertise or knowledge, or someone is just better at you at doing things. So if we talk a little bit about the world we live in today, you know, and there are just a couple of, I just picked a couple of things out here, which is one is the Alibaba started the Singles Day in China, which is on the 11th of the 11th, which is kind of, I would say, a answer to Valentine's Day, which is for two people. This day on the 11th of the 11th, I'm not sure if you have followed this or heard about it, but they sold the first hour in China. They sold a total value, and very hard to guess, of $12 billion US. So that's kind of the $12 billion US. At the end of the day, it was 38 US billion dollars. So, and even then, Jack Ma came out and said that the results were disappointing because the day fell on a Monday and it was a sunny day. If it would have fallen on a Saturday and a rainy day, that would have really outdone the profit. So what has becoming, you know, of the world? Where do people buy? No longer in shops. You see city centers going empty. There is a strong drive of buying local. And how does that fit into this bonanza of online shopping spree? IKEA, of course, I think on sustainability and on keeping the world at heart, typically a big driver, a big example. IKEA has now done urban downtown shops without parking spaces. You can only go there on public transport or on your bicycle, but not with your car. And the furniture in the store is all wood or wood generated or a composite of it. And there's a logistical system behind it about flat packing it and delivering it to your home, which is a very efficient way. And then, of course, I think another example where we have Greta, who is definitely carrying a big torch, and I'll talk about that. And also in all this constellation, there's a strong need to personalization. So how do we go about that? So I'll talk a little bit more about that. Are there any questions? I'm not sure if I can follow that on my screen here. If there are any questions, I would say give a shout, although I wouldn't know where to see that right now. All right, so this world of contrast we're talking about, right? So what does that really mean, this world of contrast? Old, new, analog, digital, young, old, classic, contemporary, fat, thin, inclusive, exclusive. You know, we are kind of bouncing in between and need to find our way. Analog, digital, a good one. And therefore, I think within this total world of we are in right now, and mind you, I just reminding you, I'm from the hotel industry. I'm from the hotel business, so I'm from the service industry, highly competitive. We have identified that some of our core, the single core most important differentiator for us is our people. Fortunately, you You know, it's our people. People will make a difference. Everybody can build a hotel, can get the bricks, the concrete, can get the sanitary stuff for the bathroom, can find even the right style. But this, what I call the software, the soul of a property, is made by people. And I think, therefore, I think that the people, to have people do things with passion and the things they love is kind of fundamental. So back to personalization a little bit. When we talk about our guests, you know, we know less and less about our guests. They book via channels, whether it's booking.com or whether it's Expedia, and less about the direct approach to hotels directly. So how do we know really this guest and what he or she likes, especially in the context of privacy, of GDPR, and yet the demand of a guest or a client or a consumer has become more individual, wants to have an opportunity to personalize the experience, yeah? Whether it's a handwritten note, with a real stamp. What about a book? You know, we're all reading on our Kindles and on our iPads, but remember a good old book, you know, where you can smell the pages and basically go a little bit of analog. So I'm saying the latest seamless technology together with a big slice of analog go a long way. And as much as I say I'm a hotelier, I'm in the service industry, to me, this applies to pretty much any business, really. The contact you have, how you maintain a good relationship with your clients, how to make sure that they come again with you, that they stay with you, that they're loyal to you. And I've added some components here. Here's a little handwritten note of Jackie Kennedy, I believe it is. And also the keys in the hotel. Remember, you had a key. Now you have something on your phone, and you just bypass a reception. You have physically no contact. So while that key had a lot more of a function than just opening a room door. It was a contact. Is there a message from me? How was your day today? Have any suggestions where I go for dinner tonight? So there was a social contact, that sense of belonging to something. There was a little community part going. Or Tony Chocoloni on the lower left corner, I'm a big fan of. They kind of took the chocolate mark by storm and came up with a 100% slave-free. Cacao business is very a delicate business in terms of slavery being used. They guarantee 100% slave-free, and talking personalization of a commodity product, you can online tailor each and every wrapper with the personalized message to your friend, to your lover, to your colleague, to your neighbor, and have it delivered as of a minimum quantity of one. So there's a part of personalization you start to see even in bigger brands and bigger commodity products. So I find this very fascinating and very excited about mixing that technology, yes, seamless, with some analog. So, and of course, there we have Greta, you know, can you hear her? Greta, sometimes a bit controversial maybe as people are perceiving it, but her message is clear. I think she represents the future. She's 16 years old today, and she created a major global movement. In 10 years, she's 26, and in 20 years, she's 36. She probably has a few kids. So you may wonder, how is she going to live? How is she going to make her choices? She will definitely find a company to work for that matches her value set. Right? But also she will stay in a hotel that matches her value set. And you can kind of, I would say, extrapolate these trends on it. So, and it's not about changing the world immediately and everything, but small steps is totally fine. If you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. The famous plastic straw that got eliminated and the whole world talked about for 6 months. It's really just a little indication, and it's kind of symptomatic, but it got the attention to it. It's a small step, and keep doing small step, many small steps, make a big step. So again, this is focused predominantly on hospitality, where I was creating also another brand, very much into what the market needs today and going forward. But here are a couple of trends, you know, where it clearly indicates that the market is ready for new disruption. So you have rapid urbanization is one. But what I find very interesting, I think, is the rise of loneliness. The rise of loneliness, the loneliness has the same impact on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So there's again, and it's even more dangerous than obesity. So there's again this need, this drive to belonging. You want to belong to to a community, whether it's a co-working, whether it's a fitness club, whether it's the hockey club, whether it's a theater club or a book reading club. But you want to belong. You want to belong to a part where you share values, where you're thinking alike. And I think very interesting going forward also is the home ownership losing appeal, where I think the newer generations, due to lack of funds, but also preferred more flexibility and dynamics of travel and working have totally changed. All right, so digital nomads in 2035, just take a quick shot out to 15 years out. Now, in my view, I think we hit these figures in 2030, but in 2035, and I had a presentation earlier, Mr. Blix, I remember Blix as a name, about people, and but let's say 2035, we have 9 billion people. We have, and George was talking about, I'm also not a big fan of digital nomads, but let's just call them for that. We have 1 billion digital nomads and 3 billion freelancers. Right? So what does that mean? How people eat, how people travel, how people work, how people live, how people congregate? What does it mean in terms of community? And again, I'm approaching it specifically from how will people stay, where will people sleep, and how will that product look like? While you can also adapt this straight away onto your own business. So I put hospitality on the next slide, implications for future hospitality projects. I put hospitality in brackets because I truly believe this is applicable to any business. So I call it the 5 C's. Collaboration, creativity, and innovation obviously is an extremely important part. How can we have people be creative, conversational, critical, self-critical, critical to the product, reading the label, understanding what's inside, bouncing it back, and co-creation, of course. That's what we're doing today also. Co-create, co-working, co-sharing, co-living, co-dancing, co-eating. I mean, co-everything, as I call it. And that's where it's moving, the sense of community. And we need to be innovative and creative. And these core brand pillars then that are needed, and I quickly touch on it, is very transformative and purposeful, right? And there has to be simple, seamless, you know, when it comes to technology. So why you? Why us? How do you differentiate in this world? What are your differentiators and your ikigai? And I mentioned the Japanese concept of ikigai, and I leave a template here with you, and I suggest you work it through. You know, you ask yourself some critical questions. You ask yourself some critical questions as to what do I really want to get out of life? And then the Kairos moment, I know it's going very fast, but the Kairos moment is really detecting, sharpen your focus, clearly define your goals, what you want to accomplish, what you want to do, sharpen that, and float it out there. So I think what I like about Ikigai, it takes 4 areas in consideration. What do I love to do? What am I good at? And do I get paid for that also? But also, I think the 4th part really is to establish your Ikigai is what does the world need right now? Right? Is it relevant today? So, and then Penta Hotels, as I mentioned, I was taken on board to reimagine Penta Hotels. It's a group of 30 hotels, predominantly in Europe and also Asia, and to reimagine and grow the brand, right? And when we talk brand culture, and I think we will all be very much valued and appraised by the social and environmental impact we make as a person, as a family, as a business. I think we will be more and more looking at how do we deal with that? How do we leave a proper footprint behind? And this is kind of the core, I would say, on brand culture. When I moved into Penta, where do you start? You know, I think the core things that needed work were leadership style and culture. It was very much a top-down approach. You know, I like people to think for themselves. I like to develop people. So in order to enjoy a vision, in order to set a vision, you know, we were very clear about it had to be something that made total sense and is understood by everybody clearly in the organization, and it is not just a poster in the wall. So why are you born? Why are we born? Why are we on this world? We're in this world not to make money. We need money, but it's not the prime goal. So we defined that our vision is to promote love, joy, and happiness. We're born to seek love, joy, and happiness. And from values, we believe in each other, individuality, relationships, honesty, truth. We live in a post-truth world. How do we know what's real around us? Who do we trust? And very strong local soul, so truly be that open door community in your neighborhood. You buy local, and your business model takes in full consideration also the less privileged of our societies. Yeah, and all this with a commercial mindset. Yeah, of course we're not in the business of breaking even. Of course we're in the business of making profit, but we do that in a different way, in a more comprehensive, taking the neighborhood and the social aspects fully on board. Whether it's serving Christmas dinners, whether it's every Saturday morning we have a room set aside and the elderly, the senior citizens could have a hairdresser cut their hair, or a manicure, or what can we do to the soup kitchens we have, or activities. But all that is great, but what you need a leader. You need the right leadership style as a facilitator. And I'm just looking at the time. I have 4 minutes, so I'll quickly flip through. We're almost there. So do you want to be right or do you want to be kind as a leader, as a person? Ask yourself this question. Do I want to be right or do I want to be kind? And a friend of mine had mentioned, you know, one of the definitions of leadership to her was, I'll go first. But I just showed 3 generations of leadership, and I focus on the neuro leader and the imagination age. Yeah, that's just very strongly. But the leadership styles that are used are very much about the manager style. Control is power, top down. I'm not interested in your opinion. Then information age came by, which was a big improvement. But information today is no longer a differentiator. The real way you differentiate the currency of the 21st century are ideas, and have everybody in your organization think along. Who knows where vulnerability is a strength, you know, and every direction feedback. So, and of course, it's about bringing it alive. In this case, for Penta, and here's just some activities. You know, we worked with Alison Payne out of Australia as a coach, a culture coach, also to help us. But bring it alive. We established a Penta Academy to really identify talent and grow talent and keep the retention going. A lot on charities, and not charity as transferring an amount just before Christmas into a bank account and say we're done with it. No, giving time. Give time to charity as opposed to money or food, but be actively engaged into this social fabric. So, and it was a tremendous success. And I think also commercially, you know, the last 2.5 years, the revenues haven't been as high, but the core thing is have people think for themselves and have people spare their ideas, use their creativity and imagination really in there. So a lot of information in there, and I know, and I'd love to have a further discussion. So drop me a note or a WhatsApp, here you have my information. But I think as a core, I hope you found it useful. As a core message is really don't accept the status quo, dream big, don't take no for an answer, but be vigilant, be transparent, be gracious, and stay curious always. So drop me a note or a WhatsApp. I'm here. Work on your Ikigai. Why not? You have a bit of time. It's very simple. It's asking yourself critical questions and ask yourself difficult questions that maybe you've been going around. And I think it's really the right time to focus on that and to focus towards a better, different world. And let's use this momentum to accelerate as opposed to letting us slow down. So thank you very much. I'm not sure if we have time for questions. I think 1 minute or something.